In the bustling streets of Snina, a town in eastern Ukraine, an unusual sight caught the attention of Associated Press journalists. Among the endless stream of military vehicles and weaponry passing through the town that day, one stood out, a Buk M1 missile launcher, a colossal piece of machinery that seemed almost out of place. As the convoy came to a brief halt, a soldier speaking with a distinct Russian accent approached the journalists. His message was clear: no photographs, no videos. The reporters obeyed, watching as the massive launcher rolled out of town. At the time, no one could have foreseen how significant this weapon would become in just a few hours. Before we delve deeper into this story, let's take a moment to introduce today's sponsor, Conflict of Nations. It's a free online PvP strategy game where you take command of a real country in a simulated World War III. Conflict of Nations challenges you to strategize, build alliances, and fight for dominance. Lead your nation using tanks, jets, and even nuclear submarines as you battle up to 128 players in real time. Will you declare war on your neighbors or forge alliances to secure your power? Choose your strategy wisely, as games can span weeks of intense tactical decision-making. Best of all, you can play on PC or mobile using the same account seamlessly. As a special gift, click the link in the description to receive 13,000 gold and 1 month of premium subscription for free. This exclusive offer is only available for 30 days. It's July 17, 2014. The day began like any other at the bustling Amsterdam Schiphol Airport, marking the start of the holiday season. Passengers checked in their luggage, collected boarding passes, and exchanged farewells with families and friends. In the departure hall at Gate G3, Malaysia Airlines flight MH17 was preparing for its journey. This daily service to Kuala Lumpur carried 283 passengers and 15 crew members. The aircraft for this flight was a reliable and modern Boeing 777, a workhorse for Malaysia Airlines. It was powered by 2 Rolls-Royce engines and had recently undergone routine maintenance. The flight crew for this long-haul journey consisted of 4 pilots, 2 captains and 2 first officers, working in shifts to ensure the flying crew remained rested and alert throughout the journey. This protocol is standard practice for flights of this duration. Team A took control of the cockpit during the initial segment of the flight. Both teams were composed of highly experienced professionals, each with thousands of flight hours, including significant time operating the Boeing 777. In the cabin, a dedicated crew of 11 members ensured that passenger safety and comfort were prioritized throughout the journey. Among the passengers were families heading for vacations, business travelers, and a significant group of researchers traveling to an AIDS conference in Melbourne, Australia. As ground staff loaded the cargo hold, the final boarding call for the flight was announced. Inside the terminal, passengers gathered their belongings and prepared to board the aircraft. Among them, one passenger snapped a photo of the Boeing 777 waiting at the gate. Unbeknownst to the photographer, this simple snapshot would within hours become a piece of world news, symbolizing one of the darkest days in modern aviation history. Shortly after noon, the final preparations for Flight MH17 were completed. The crew conducted pre-flight checks, verifying fuel levels, weather conditions, and the flight plan. With 46 tons of fuel loaded and all systems confirmed operational, the flight was ready for pushback. According to the flight plan, this flight was scheduled to follow the standard departure route, Nike Air 3 Whiskey, climbing southeast before crossing the Dutch-German border at waypoint SB. After passing through Germany, the route continued across Poland, where the aircraft was planned to climb to 33,000 feet upon entering Ukrainian airspace. It would ascend further to 35,000 feet near waypoint PIK. From there, the route would take the aircraft over the Russian Federation, the Caspian Sea, and onward through Iran, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and India, before continuing toward Kuala Lumpur for an estimated flight time of 11.5 hours. The route carried over a region fraught with escalating tensions. Since April 2014, the Donbass region, including the Donetsk and Luhansk areas, had been engulfed in armed conflict. Pro-Russian separatists and Ukrainian government forces were engaged in intense battles marked by artillery exchanges, aerial bombardments, and the rapid militarization of the area. They had their orders: bring back the authority of the Ukrainian government, drive out the separatists backed by Russia. The front lines shifted periodically, with some towns and villages occasionally changing control. During the conflict, both sides deployed heavy weaponry, and for the separatists, anti-aircraft systems were a critical component of their arsenal. The increasing deployment of these systems led to a series of incidents. As the conflict progressed, Ukrainian aircraft were frequently targeted. The attacks were carried out primarily with man-portable air defense systems, also known as manpads. These lightweight, shoulder-fired weapons are effective at lower altitudes. In June, a Ukrainian reconnaissance aircraft was shot down near Sloviansk, and just days later, a transport plane was downed while landing at Luhansk, killing 49 people. During this same period, helicopters and fighter jets were also attacked. These events revealed a clear pattern. The skies above eastern Ukraine had become increasingly unsafe. On the 14th of July, a particularly alarming incident further escalated concerns when Ukrainian transport aircraft was shot down while flying at 6,500 meters, well above the range of typical manpads. Ukrainian authorities concluded that a more advanced weapon system had been used, possibly a modern anti-aircraft system such as the Pantsir or an air-to-air missile. In response to this incident, airspace below 32,000 feet was closed. Flights above this altitude were still considered safe under international aviation guidelines. At such heights, it was believed that most surface-to-air missile systems posed no significant threat. Despite the airspace being deemed safe, many airlines, including major carriers like British Airways and Air France, chose to avoid this region of Ukraine. However, Malaysia Airlines, along with several others, continued to use the route after evaluating it as safe. But as we will soon see, these assumptions of safety would be shattered in an instant, turning an ordinary flight into an unimaginable tragedy. At 12:13 local time, the Boeing 777 taxied to runway 36 center. 18 minutes later, it lifted into the skies and began climbing southeastward on its journey to Malaysia. The aircraft flew north of Amsterdam, following the standard instrument departure route southeast toward Germany. It climbed to 25,000 feet before crossing the Dutch-German border, where the route continued toward Poland. The journey proceeded uneventfully in its early stages. The crew monitored the instruments, maintained communication with air traffic controllers, and received updates on weather and traffic conditions. In the cabin, passengers began to settle in. Some engaged with the in-flight entertainment system, while others read, napped, or enjoyed light refreshments served by the flight attendants. As the flight continued its journey, the aircraft flew over Poland. The plane maintained its southeastward course, entering Ukrainian skies near Lviv and heading toward its next waypoint over Dnipro. Below, the landscape shifted from European farmland to the vast plains of Eastern Europe. At 7 minutes to 3 in the afternoon, Dnipro radar made contact with the flight crew, requesting them to climb to 35,000 feet in accordance with their flight plan. The crew declined, opting to remain at flight level 330. While no specific reason was provided, they were likely trying to avoid turbulence at the higher altitude, a common operational decision. Air traffic control acknowledged the crew's choice. Around the same time, they identified a potential conflict with another Boeing 777 flying the same route at 33,000 feet and approaching MH17 from behind. The trailing aircraft was directed to climb to flight level 350 to maintain safe separation. Minutes later, at 3 o'clock, the crew of MH17 requested a deviation from their planned route, asking to shift 20 nautical miles north to avoid cumulonimbus clouds building along their path. Earlier weather reports for the region had warned of severe thunderstorms with large hailstones and towering cloud tops moving north at 20 kilometers per hour. Dnipro radar granted the request, allowing the course adjustment, but instructed the crew to remain at 33,000 foot due to conflicting civilian traffic at 34,000 feet. After avoiding the bad weather, the crew began returning to their original course, aligning with the center line of Airway Lima 980 as they headed towards their next waypoint. Meanwhile, on the ground, a Buk missile system was being set up. The system consisted of a radar unit capable of tracking targets, a command vehicle, and a missile launcher. Operatives began scanning the skies for potential threats. The intent was to target Ukrainian military aircraft operating in the region. The Buk missile system, codenamed SA-11 by NATO, is a mobile medium-range weapon system equipped with semi-active radar-guided missiles. It can detect, lock onto, and destroy high-speed aerial targets such as fighter jets, bombers, and cruise missiles, posing a severe threat to military operations. At this moment, MH-17 was not alone in the skies. Several commercial aircraft flew in the same airspace, some at similar altitudes. These flights were operated by Air India, EVA Air, and Singapore Airlines. Two of these flights were heading eastbound and one was heading westbound. All flights were under the control of Dnipro radar. The distance between flight MH17 and the nearest other aircraft was 33 kilometers. Nearing waypoint Tamak at the Russian border, air traffic controllers cleared the flight crew to proceed directly to waypoint Romeo November Delta, 45 nautical miles further southeast. The crew acknowledged this clearance, marking their final radio transmission. Unbeknownst to the pilots and passengers, the Buk system's radar had locked onto their aircraft seconds earlier. The operators likely mistook MH17 for a Ukrainian military plane, a catastrophic error. With its large radar signature, the Boeing 777 presented an easy target. At 20 minutes to 3 in the afternoon, a missile was launched. The rocket streaked skyward, climbing rapidly toward 33,000 feet. The Buk missile's warhead is designed to maximize destruction through fragmentation. Upon detonation, it releases a cone of high-speed shrapnel capable of penetrating the fuselage and critical systems of aircraft. This technology ensures catastrophic damage, even without a direct hit. Traveling at nearly Mach 3, the missile closed the distance to its target in seconds, guided with precision. The warhead detonated just meters from the cockpit. The explosion was devastating. The shrapnel from the missile's warhead ripped through the fuselage, instantly destroying the cockpit and killing the flight crew. The pilots had no chance to respond. The missile struck with precision, leaving no time for action. The detonation caused the aircraft to break apart midair. The front section, including the cockpit, detached almost immediately and began spiraling toward the ground. The cabin was violently depressurized and exposed to the harsh conditions of high altitude, freezing temperatures and near-total oxygen deprivation. Passengers would have lost consciousness almost instantly. In the fields and villages of the Donetsk region, the falling debris was seen by residents. Some described hearing a loud bang followed by streaks of smoke in the sky. Others reported objects tumbling from high above. Entire sections of the plane, including seats, luggage, and pieces of the fuselage, fell across fields in eastern Ukraine. Fire and black smoke marked the locations where larger portions of the wreckage struck the ground. The debris field extended over 50 square kilometers, making it one of the largest crash sites in aviation history. Personal belongings, aircraft parts, and human remains were scattered across this vast area, complicating efforts to understand the disaster's precise sequence. Photographs and videos taken by locals were shared on social media, showing burning debris and personal belongings lying across fields. These images quickly made their way to international news outlets, sparking widespread shock and speculation. In response, Malaysia Airlines released a tweet confirming the loss of contact with flight MH17. Tragically, it soon became clear that there were no survivors among the 298 people on board. The victims included 193 Dutch nationals, 43 Malaysians, 27 Australians, 12 Indonesians, 10 British, 4 Belgians, 4 Germans, 3 Filipinos, 1 Canadian, and 1 New Zealander. As the extent of the tragedy unfolded, separatist forces moved to secure the crash site. Armed men cordoned off areas and restricted access, making it nearly impossible for Ukrainian authorities or international observers to enter. This initial lack of access meant that crucial evidence could not be secured immediately, raising concerns about interference and the potential loss of critical information. Despite these challenges, the need for a thorough investigation remained undeniable. An international investigation team was established, led by the Netherlands and including representatives from Malaysia, Australia, Belgium, and Ukraine. Their mission was clear: to uncover the cause of the crash and determine accountability. When investigators were finally granted access to the crash site weeks later, they faced immense difficulties. Reports of disturbed wreckage and potential interference added further complexity to their work. Nevertheless, the team meticulously documented the area, collecting vital evidence to piece together what had happened. The remains of the victims were carefully recovered and transported to the Netherlands in a deeply respectful and symbolic process. Ceremonial flights brought the remains to Eindhoven Air Base, where they were received with military honors and solemnity. On the 23rd of July 2014, the Netherlands observed a national day of mourning as the first flight carrying victims' remains arrived. This deeply united the nation in grief. Flags flew at half-mast, church bells rang, and citizens gathered in silence to pay their respects. Convoys of hearses transported those lost from Eindhoven to a forensic facility in Hilversum for examination. This solemn process, which took multiple days, saw long lines of hearses making their way through the Netherlands. The sight of these convoys, accompanied by supportive citizens lining the roads, became one of the tragedy's most powerful and emotional images. The identification process was carried out with great care and respect. Hundreds of experts worked tirelessly to provide answers to the families of the victims. Using dental records, rib and bone analyses, and DNA testing, they confirmed the identities of the deceased. Out of the 298 victims, 296 were ultimately identified, offering closure to nearly all the families. Alongside the transportation of the victims, parts of the wreckage were also brought to the Netherlands. In a hangar, experts began the process of reconstructing the aircraft by piecing together fragments of the plane, including the cockpit and fuselage. They played a crucial role in uncovering exactly what had happened on that tragic day. After months of analysis, the investigation team reached an unavoidable conclusion. Malaysia Airlines Flight MH17 was shot down by a Buk surface-to-air missile. Evidence of the explosion was found in the form of metal fragments embedded in the wreckage and the bodies of the crew. Further analysis uncovered additional key evidence, such as the cockpit voice recorder, which captured a sound spike lasting just 2.3 milliseconds. Signal triangulation confirmed that this sound originated outside the aircraft, moving from a position above and to the left of the cockpit, traveling from front to back. Additional evidence included larger debris recovered at the crash site and a small number of fragments found within the aircraft remains. Paint samples taken from suspected missile parts matched objects embedded in the debris, which did not originate from the aircraft itself. Furthermore, traces of explosive materials were discovered on both the missile fragments and the aircraft debris, conclusively linking the missile to the tragedy. Other possible scenarios that could have led to the aircraft's disintegration were thoroughly analyzed and ultimately dismissed based on the available evidence. To honor the victims, memorials were held in the Netherlands and around the world. In 2017, a national memorial was created in Vijfhuizen, near Schiphol Airport, featuring 298 trees, one for each life lost. Families of the victims found comfort in this memorial, which became a lasting place of remembrance. In 2020, a criminal trial began in the Netherlands charging 4 suspects for their role in the downing of MH17. The trial revealed painful details, bringing the loss of 298 lives back into focus as testimonies and evidence were presented. While charges were filed, the question remains whether true justice can be achieved. This tragedy had a lasting impact on aviation safety. New protocols and guidelines were introduced to improve the safety of flights over conflict zones. Airlines, international organizations, and governments now collaborate to prevent similar disasters from happening again. Yet the scars remain for the families and all those affected by the loss. If you enjoy the video, then please click the like button and subscribe to my channel for more videos. Thanks for watching this video.